A lot of schools will ask you where you want to be after university. We think it's more important to understand what you want to be, which is why at Acadia University, we don't produce graduates. We develop people. People that are confident in themselves, grounded in their communities, and empowered by leading knowledge and practices. There's no telling where your studies at Acadia will take you, but we know that you'll be ready. Acadia University, like nowhere else.
My name is Ilyas. I am the Pathway Program Manager here at SSLC, Sprachaw Language College. We have Daniel joining us today from Acadia University, one of our Pathway partners here in Canada, in the East Coast. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for joining us today. It's been a long time since I ran these webinars actually with a Pathway partner. We used to do almost twice weekly with our Pathway partners during the pandemic times. But yeah, it's good to have you here. As everybody knows, there have been changes in the Canadian immigration system about students and study permits and all that. We had webinars in the past weeks about that, informing our students, our partners, and our agents and everyone else. But we'd like to take this opportunity to promote our Pathway partnership with Acadia University, and we'd like to know more about Acadia and what Acadia University offers for our students. So why don't you introduce yourself and the university, and we'll go from there. And if I have follow-up questions here and there, I may interrupt you.
Of course. So I am Daniel MacGregor. I'm the Coordinator of Partnerships and Agreements with Acadia International, which handles the international affairs for Acadia University. To go into Acadia University itself, I have a presentation, but I can give a quick synopsis before going into that. Acadia University is a primarily undergraduate liberal arts university located in Wolfville, Nova Scotia, in the wonderful province of Nova Scotia in eastern Canada, specifically the Maritimes and/or Atlantic Canada. We have a number of programs that would interest your students, broken up into 3 faculties. Faculty of Arts, Faculty of Pure and Applied Science, and Faculty of Professional Studies, with some of the more flashy programs being kinesiology, business, biology, computer science, economics and politics, and psychology. But we have something for everyone. And because we're a liberal arts university, that means no matter what program you take, be it history, economics, business, kinesiology, what have you, you're always going to have more diversity in the courses you take, as you're required to take courses outside of your chosen discipline. So if you're a history student, you have to take a number of science courses and language courses. If you're a business student, you have to take a certain number of electives. So we provide both a strong education in your chosen discipline, while also ensuring that students have a wide berth of knowledge to choose from to help them both at their time at Acadia, but also when they leave to pursue either future studies or future work experiences.
That's great. When was Acadia established, and what's your student body look like, and what's the percentage of the international students at Acadia?
Of course. So Acadia was founded in 1838, so it's a fairly old and well-respected institution. As for student population, in total, we're currently around 3,500 students. Primarily, the bulk of those are undergraduate, even though we do have a few graduate programs.
Okay.
And as for the international student population, we're currently at about around 500 students. So that's
Okay.
500 out of 3,500.
That's great. So what are some of the admission requirements to get into Acadia? What are the criteria that Acadia looks for in students, and when they can apply, when they can start their programs?
Of
The
course.
intakes and all that.
Yep. So the application process opens on October 1st. But I will note for scholarship purposes, it's important to have your application in by March 1st to be considered for scholarships. There is a $40 Canadian application processing fee. And when it comes to submitting your high school transcripts or transcripts from other post-secondary institutions, that may be applicable, they all have to be sent in for evaluation.
Okay. And what's the tuition fees look like
The
for
tuition fee,
international students?
yep, for international students, tuition is about $19,500. Of course, it's asked to go up. And other fees include student union health plan, dental plan. And if students choose to live on residence, a single room can usually be anywhere from that $7,700. Double could be $6,600, but those can vary from residence to residence, which we have 11 of for students to choose from. And I will also note when it comes to housing, as that's always can be seen as a major issue. International students throughout their entire stay at Acadia are guaranteed a spot in residence if they choose to live on residence. So that is available for international students. And when it comes to a meal plan, if you live on residence, you are required to have a meal plan at our lovely wheel lock dining hall. For all students, for a 7-day meal plan, it's about $5,200 for the stay, but that's all you can eat.
That's great. Yeah, I was going to ask about accommodation, but you answered that. How about, I mean, can you tell us a bit about more about Wolfville, how far it is to, let's say, Halifax, yeah, to a bigger city, where it's located, what's the life there in there look like, and if students want to do off-campus housing, what are their options?
Those are all great questions, and I can speak as someone who both works at Acadia but lives also in Wolfville. As a resident of Wolfville, it's a lovely place to live. But to go into specifics, it's about an hour's drive from Halifax, which is the capital of Nova Scotia, and about an hour and 20 minutes from the Halifax International Airport. So it's fairly close to the action, as I like to say. If it's a fairly close drive, and there's also Maritime Bus, which is a local bus service, which for about $20 each way can take you down to downtown Halifax in about an hour, and that's a daily trip. So that's available for students who don't have their own automobiles or forms of transit. When it comes to Wolfville itself, it is the quintessential university town, just like you see in the postcards. It's small, very picturesque, about 4,000 residents. And I can say downtown is at any time we're on campus, about 5-minute walk away. Everything is very, very walkable. So whether you live off campus in Wolfville or on campus, the downtown strip does like the stereotypical college town. It's just one strip, but that's not to say it's small and doesn't have what you're looking for. It has 2 pharmacies, a major grocery store, a health grocery store, I should say, a weekly farmers market that has local crafts and produce and baked goods for students interested in that kind of niche. There's a hardware store, of course, if you need any kind of equipment or anything like that. So it's quite small, it's quite intimate. But also there's King's Transit, which is a local, just a valley transit service that can take students from Wolfville to New Minas, which has all the box stores and superstores and grocery stores students could need if they need, go to Walmart or Superstore or a fast food service. That's where they're all located. So it's quite accommodating in that sense. A lot more accommodating than most cities.
That's great. It sounds like a real Canadian experience.
Oh, it's wonderful. Like I'll even say there's two ways to get to New Minas. You can take the highway, which is good if you have a car, and there's a sidewalk all the way from the 7 kilometers from Wolfville to New Minas. So you can easily walk that way, take the main road, or you can take the Harvest Moon Trail, which is a trail that's maintained. It's mainly gravel, but there are paved sections that goes from Grand Pre, which is just a little bit to the east of Wolfville, runs through Wolfville all the way to the other end of the valley, Annapolis Royal. But you can also take it, which I have done. I have used it to bike from Wolfville to New Minas to Kentville. So if you're a student who likes to bike, to cycle, but you're a little apoplectic of going on the highway, going on the road, it's a quite better alternative. And it also will bring you closer to the nature side of Wolfville. Because as where some cities may have, a park here or there where you can go for a walk amongst the trees, Wolfville very much, both in Wolfville itself, but also in New Minas or Kentville, has that urban setting. Just the right amount, I like to say. Because even downtown Wolfville has cafes and kind of indie movie theater and the pubs and all that. But also, if you just go 2 minutes walking in any direction, you're in some of the most beautiful natural scenery you can find in Nova Scotia, which Annapolis Valley is known for. But also, just to the north of the campus in Wolfville is the New Minas Basin, which has some of the highest tidal activity in the world, with a difference of about 10 meters between low tide and high tide. So, oh yeah, the valley in Wolfville has both the urban setting students may look for, but also kind of that picturesque natural environment that's good for the soul.
Daniel, I even want to move there now. I've been to Halifax actually years ago, like maybe 2010, 2011. It was beautiful. I mean, even though you see Toronto behind me, we're based in Vancouver. Actually, our SSLC's head offices and head campus is Vancouver, but we obviously have campuses in Toronto and also Victoria as well. So you're technically connecting us all the way to the east coast, from West Coast to the East Coast. So that's great. All right. So I was going to ask you about our pathway, actually. So how our students can apply. Let's just refresh our memory. So our students come here to study with us, they improve their English, and then they take our official pathway program, which is the EP program, English for Post-Secondary Education. And that's a 12-week program offered in all our campuses. And once they complete our EP program, once our students complete our program, successfully complete, that means they get overall 80% in their coursework. That means they are now ready to apply, or even before that, they'll be able to apply to Acadia. And once they are able to show the EP certificate and transcripts, so they get admitted directly. If all else is okay for the English proficiency part.
Right. So there are technically two pathways depending on the score students get. If they get a minimum of 80% in the EPE, they will get granted direct entry into Acadia's English for Academic Purposes bridging program, which is just another about 12-week program to help them finalize their English proficiency to get ready for the academic level. But also,
and when do they take it? The EAP for 12 weeks? Is it like September, January, and May intake kind of thing, or it has different intakes?
It has a roughly different intake from the normal academic cycle. It's run more on a trimester cycle. So about, I believe there's about a entrance every 3 times a year. But I will say, if students for the second pathway option, depending on their score, if they get an 86 or above, they will be granted direct admission into the undergraduate program of their choice. Now, this does not guarantee acceptance. This just acts as the
English
English
proficiency.
language proficiency requirement. That would
Okay.
usually require a test, either ELACs or one of those tests. But through this partnership, this would count as the proficiency requirement.
Perfect.
But students would still be required to meet other requirements, both for general admission, but also the specific entry requirements for their chosen program.
For the chosen program, exactly. And what do they, so when they make an application, what types of documents students need apart from our EP certificate?
Well, the biggest one
Mhm.
would be the transcript from their secondary institution that they graduated from. And also, if they attended post-secondary before applying to whatever degree, it'd
Mhm.
also be recommended to supply transcripts from that institution as well.
Okay. Transcript and from secondary school, if post-secondary, they also need to include that. English proficiency and other things might include like passport copy and all that, I assume. And the
Yeah.
application form. Is it online? Online?
Yep, students can make their applications online.
Okay, perfect. And for your September intake, do you still have spots or are you accepting students inside Canada throughout the year? How does it work?
Right. So we are still accepting new students for this year. The major caveat I will note, though, is that scholarship consideration has ended because the deadline for that was March 1st.
Okay.
But nonetheless, students can still apply for this upcoming year. But if students are interested in the scholarship aspect, they would have to apply for fall 2025 before March 1st, 2025.
Okay. And how about the new provincial attestation letter thing? How does Acadia managing that? So obviously, if students are already in Canada with a study permit, or even if they're visitors technically with an ETA or TRVs, if they do the pathway with us, they could technically switch their status to a student inside Canada, or if they already have study permit, they're PAL exempt, provincial attestation letter exempt, and they're exempted from the cap as well. So for those students who are already in our campuses, or who are already in Canada and looking for a pathway program and then enrolling into an undergraduate program, they can do that. But if students are outside Canada and if they need PAL, how does it work with Acadia University? Or I think Nova Scotia already has the system ready?
It is still in process,
Oh,
so
it's still in process. Okay.
not all details have been rolled out yet.
Okay.
We are
Oh, not
very
yet.
attentively waiting. But I will say, regardless of what comes down the pipeline, we will be willing to work with students as much as possible to help them through this process.
Okay, so IRCC said all provinces are expected to have the PAL system ready by March 31st. So hopefully, probably this week, we'll hear more from the rest of the provinces. So here in BC, we already have the PAL system ready as of March 4th, and we have started issuing PALs to our students. So if you are looking to study English in Canada, improve your English, so you will need PAL if it's more than 6 months, or if you're coming for a pathway program. So we'll be able to issue your PAL within 24 hours of your application, and we'll be able to send our students or our agents the letter of acceptance, their invoices, and the PAL as soon as they apply. So within 24 hours, we'll be able to issue all the documents to our students. Okay. Did I ask? I'm just checking myself if I've asked all the questions. It's been a long time since I've done these I mean, we after these webinars, we started shooting videos for YouTube by visiting our pathway partners. I'm not sure if that's a possibility to go all the way from Vancouver to Wolfville. Maybe one day we'll be able to do that. But yeah, do you want to add anything else to what would you say to your prospective students? Do you want to add anything else? I think we covered pretty much everything.
We covered a lot of it. I'll just say, I believe in closing, that as I said before, Acadia very much is focused on individualized learning and being a small university, like I said before at the beginning, of about 3,500 students. Our small size allows each student to feel like an individual and not a number. So in class, on campus, and in Wolfville, it is such a small, but not small in like a negative sense, small in like a comfy, intimate sense, where you will quickly get to know, if you're here for 4 years, your fellow classmates, community members, your professors. You will very much get instilled in a sense of community. And I can speak to that as someone who's lived in Wolfville just for a year. Even in a year, you can get very connected to, new friends and new acquaintances and volunteer groups and different activities. And there's always something going on, either on campus with a lecture series or a talk, or, even someone just setting up a table in the main classroom center, the Beveridge Arts Center, where most of the classes are even just in the community in general, in Wolfville or New Minas or Greenwich or Port Williams, or I can name 100 different small communities nearby. But just in closing, I will say, as compared to a lot of the bigger universities and bigger cities, Wolfville is very much where you can come. This is going to sound super corny, to discover yourself, just because it's so small, where you can take some time just to hear what's going on within your own soul and not be drowned out by a lot of the sounds of the city. And as our catchphrase is, Acadia University is like nowhere else. Again, I apologize, that last part got very sentimental and very corny.
It's all good. And I just like to remind to our students and whoever is going to watch this webinar online, either live or later on YouTube. Obviously, once students complete or graduate from Acadia, they'll be able to get post-graduation work permit as well, right? So they'll be able to work up to 3 years once they graduate from Acadia University. And I think as an RCIC, I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I know that in Atlantic Canada, there are lots of immigration programs. If our international students are looking into immigrating to Canada after their graduation, there's the Atlantic Immigration Program, there's the Nova Scotia PMP program. So and I think I can say it's easier for graduates in that region in Nova Scotia. So yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone about it because we get this question a lot. So you study there and let me ask you this then. Once your students graduate, especially your international students, what do they do after that? Do you have any data on this? Where do they find jobs or where do they go? What happens?
I do not have the data with me. I don't think I have ever been provided that data.
Okay. All right. Okay. Perfect. And then we'll end it here. Thanks for again, Daniel, joining our webinar today. It was a great talk with you. Hopefully, we'll do more in the coming months to revamp our pathway partnership. with
Mhm.
Acadia, SSLC, between SSLC and Acadia University. And we thank everyone for watching this video. If you have any questions, you can always contact us at studySSLC.com. We have student advisors and marketers that speak your language. So wherever you are from, please feel free to reach to us, and we'll be able to help you with your academic goals here in Canada. So thank you, and see you next time.